Welcome back to Date Your Donors podcast. I'm your host, Jonah Halper. We are live at the EDN conference, the Executive Directors Network conference in Armin Hotel, Stamford, Connecticut. We are hosted thanks to the support of J Furniture, which partners with Jewish day schools across North America to create beautiful, functional spaces that support learning and connection. As a family-run business with decades of experience, J understands the unique needs of Jewish institutions and delivers furniture that's as durable as your mission. Visit jfurniture.com, which is JEY furniture.com, to learn how they can support your school's next upgrade. All right. Rabbi Yanky Lefkowitz, how are you today?
I am good. What's doing, Yoni?
Doing all right. Thank you so much for being here today. You are the Director of Development of TA of Baltimore, correct?
Correct.
All right, beautiful. So we've had on this podcast I'm not sure what his title, Executive Vice President? What's Yaakov Cohen's title?
Executive Vice President.
Executive
yes.
Vice President. Okay, so we've had him on the podcast talking about some principles of moves management, which are kind of baked into the way TA of Baltimore does their fundraising. And I would love to hear from you as someone who's the Director of Development, the one who is in the trenches doing the work. Would love to hear from you a little bit about, you can share a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'd love to dive into the topic of what the moves management looks like, what it means to properly cultivate your donors year round. Like, I would even call it like the off season, when it's not just time to ask for money. What does a fundraising look like or cultivation and stewardship look like year round? And if you obviously have any stories to share, we'd love to hear that as well. So Rabbi Yanky, tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into the role you're in.
Okay, I was born in Baltimore. My father was in the Kollel for 2 years, and then when I was 2 years old, we moved out to Denver. He was the executive director of the Denver Yeshiva for 17 wonderful years.
Wow.
And grew up in Colorado. When I was 14, I was sent from home to Ner Israel. I was a third-generation student. My grandfather was the first Talmud in 1933.
Wow.
In Ner Yisrael. My father came in the 60s, and I came in 1982 for the 9th grade. I stayed there for high school, then I went to Eretz Yisrael, came back for Beis Medrash in Eretz Yisrael, got smicha there, got married, was in the Kollel for 4 years, and then I became the Director of Development at TA. My father, in the meanwhile, had moved back home, back to Baltimore.
Yep.
And he became the Executive Director. Later on, he became the President. And
At TA of Baltimore.
At TA. And we've been working together as of July 1st for 30 years.
So you've had the opportunity to work with your father.
Together with my father.
All right. So usually, so I've heard that could be a recipe for disaster, but it doesn't sound like to be the case. It sounds like it worked out pretty well.
It's been an incredible experience. It's hard to imagine sometimes that the same person that took away my allowance and took away my bike, for bad behavior or a lousy report card, has become my boss.
Wow.
And we've worked together for 30 wonderful years. He's taught me so much. His Rebbe was Rabbi Naftali Herman Uberger from Ner Yisrael. Now working, as you had mentioned, together with Rabbi Yaakov Cohen, I know Executive Vice President, implementing a lot of the moves managements and wise decisions as far as cultivating and developing fundraising. And it's just been a beautiful ride. July 1st, a few weeks ago, was my 30th anniversary of working for TA.
Wow, 30 years. Now, do you get a Rolex watch or something like that?
No. But we can only hope.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe 36th year. And so what's interesting is that clearly you have some real bona fides as far as your experience, coming from fundraising royalty in a way. As your father was or is a master fundraiser. It obviously is in your gene pool. You're good at it as well. But I know Yaakov Cohen brought some institutional approaches to fundraising. And I'm sure that it's complementary, right? The skills that you have and the relationships that you're able to build that you've learned from your father, integrated into a very structured system, is like the right recipe for success, right? You're not changing the way you interface with your donors. You're just giving it some structure and focus so that it's not just done in a haphazard way. It's done in a way that's very intentional. So tell me a little bit about the nature of the way you do your work, that I think other people can learn from when it comes to, that it's not just done on the back of a napkin. It's done in a much more structured way.
Well, certainly, every fundraiser is different, but you need to enjoy people. You need to be able to feel that you have a great product that you're selling. And you need to really believe in the school and what you're doing in the mission, and that this is a great product. You know, it's hard every day, talking to people, dealing with people, you know, taking the good, taking the bad, and obviously sometimes when people, especially larger donors, some of them can be very warm and friendly, and some of them could
not be.
cannot be. You know, they could come back and you know, bite you once in a while when things aren't going their way, and
Yep.
say, you know, I want this and this.
I think we all have those stories.
We all have those stories. So you need to roll with the punches.
Yep.
And obviously it's a skill set that like everyone has, but you really need to care about your donors and you care about your job. And again, I get my high every 2 weeks when you see 250, 280 employees and the school is running and everyone's getting paid. You know, we know what we did between fundraising money and tuition money, and everybody's doing their job, and it's a well-oiled machine. And
it's
again,
incredibly gratifying. You get to see the kids kids are getting educated. They're having good, positive experiences, and you know it's the work that happens behind the scenes.
Right, and everything really has to be rolling, you know, on all cylinders. Whether it be foundation money, tuition money, government grant money, and just regular general fundraising. You know, if everything, that's a nonprofit. If everything goes perfect, then we make our budget.
Right,
you know,
right.
So coming out, you know, a few dollars above zero is a win for a nonprofit. So Baruch Hashem, we have a good machine and a great team. And
you actually have a pretty sizable development department, right? Like it's
Baruch Hashem.
A lot of Jewish day schools and yeshivas and other institutions might have an executive director and maybe a director of development, or even one person who wears all those hats. How big is the development team at TA?
So my father again is the president, and he has been the lead fundraiser for the last close to 40 years.
Yep.
Rabbi Yaakov Cohen was the executive director, I think, for the last 10 to close to 13, maybe 14 years. He just recently became the executive vice president of the yeshiva. Myself, director of development. We have another close associate, Rabbi Yehuda Zellinger, who is a Rebbe in the morning, and then he comes into the development office. He's excellent with a lot of the grandparents, special projects. He's the director of special projects, dealing with the vendors, etc. And now we have Rabbi David Shem Tov, a young kollel, young man who's learning in yeshiva till 1, and he is dealing with a lot of our younger, newer donors from 1 to 5, 1 to 6 every afternoon. So
that's great.
Baruch Hashem, everybody's got a full book of business. Everybody's got a full list of excellent donors. My bread and butter really has been the TA circle, the parents, the grandparents, and alumni. You're a parent, you currently have a child attending TA, you're a grandparent, you have an anicle that's here today in school, and you're an alumnus, you went to school, and Akar Satov, this way you don't have to reinvent the wheel, we don't have to sell a school that they may not be so familiar with. Again, there are others like that you do have to introduce a new introduction, but I find at least when you're dealing with people from the circle, they know who we are. You're already 1 foot in the door, and it's just a matter of how they're feeling.
When you say the circle, is that like an internal designation, or is it an actual branded thing called the circle?
It's in my mind,
okay.
really.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But it's really, you have a connection today.
Yeah.
You know, and whether you're an alumnus or a parent or grandparent.
The people who are most invested in the school are going to be the parents, the grandparents, and alumni.
Exactly. Now, sure, there are people, and I wouldn't call them outsiders, because every donor is really an insider.
Sure.
But I would call them, you know, people you have to make an introduction, you have to explain them.
Yep.
You have to give them a tour and show them what the school is. If they're, obviously from the community, they understand exactly the process and the learning, the Limud Kodesh in the morning and the Limud Chol in the afternoon, how important they both are and they intertwine together. If they're less affiliated, you have to explain them the importance of learning Torah and becoming a mensch and becoming an active member in the community, whether you go into Klei Kodesh or whether you go into secular studies and become a responsible businessman and an asset to the community.
Do you have, so when you're talking about engaging all these audiences, do you have like a clearinghouse or like a kind of like a go-to list of touch points that you use to reach out to these people, or is it highly customized for each individual person? Like, how do you deal with there's so many relationships that you're working on, whether it's parents, grandparents, alumni? You're working on this audience, the other development people are working on other audiences. Are you drawing from a certain pool of this is how we show TA to those people, and how do you decide what to introduce them to?
Well, each person is really different. If they're a grandparent, I kind of want to have them come visit the school, see their grandchild in action. Obviously, it's someone that I feel that it's worth my time, worth their time to come and visit the school.
Yeah.
I do a background, check a little bit on them, to see where they're holding financially. Obviously, if my job is director of development, so we do want to make sure that they're a capable person, someone who's holding by appropriating a larger portion of their tzedakah to TA. Everyone has works and everyone has Meiser money.
Sure.
If we can impart on them to give TA a nice piece of the pie, each and every year.
Yep.
And to appropriate, meaning a larger chelik of their money of tzedakah, then I think that's a win, because there's tens and tens of millions and billions of dollars out there. The question is, are we going to find it? Are we going to teach people about TA and get them to respect us and get them to learn?
So you mentioned you're doing some screening to figure out who's worthwhile.
Yeah.
How do you decide who's worthwhile? Because you only have so many hours in the day. You can only handle so many relationships. So who gets the white glove service, of your time or the other development people's time? How do you decide if someone's worthwhile? I mean, you have both aspects of, do they have money, like you mentioned, obviously if they have greater capacity, that should be on. But also, some people are not going to be super fans. Like if they're interested in saving the whales, right? If that's their thing, then maybe even if they sit next to you in shul, they're not going to be the best prospect. So, how do you decide who gets your attention, or other people on your team? How do they decide who gets their attention?
Well, we bring in a donor, and you want to listen to the donors, see what they're like. Go out for coffee with them, go out for lunch with them, see what they're interested in. If they're interested in science, you show them the science lab. If they're interested in golf, I enjoy sports very much. I golf. I like to play tennis with them. I go to a lot of baseball games and football games with my donors. Some that are affiliated and some are less affiliated. But you can tell basically by the neighborhoods they live in or the type of car that they drive. And you see by the donations, sometimes a donation comes in randomly on its own for $1,000 or $5,000. You know that, okay, that's something that I need to follow up on.
Uninitiated, they gave a gift, so then obviously they have greater capacity with the relationship.
And you need to jump on that and follow, and over X number of years, you need to follow up and build yourself a book. So what moves, you had mentioned earlier about moves management, we have a development scoring sheet, and we have, for example, let's say scoring based on a scoring system, 5 points for each level. Whether if you've given a few years in a row, 3 years in a row, you get 5 points. If you're a parent, you get 5 points. If you're a grandparent, you get 5 points. If you have an affinity towards the school, if you're an alumnus. For each,
so there's certain things that in the psychographic of a person, if they hit certain marks, then they get a weighted, like a scoring. Right. So if they're a grandparent, then they obviously get a weighted score because they are naturally connected to the school.
Right.
If they've given for a certain number of years consecutively, they get a score because it means that they're highly connected. So when you have someone who's what's the highest possible score you can get?
100.
100. So it's out of 100. So if you're scoring like 80 to 100. It means that they're probably a VIP prospect.
Exactly. If they've given a significant gift, if they've given a capital campaign gift, if they've given over $10,000, in the last 2 or 3 years.
Do you change up the scoring at all? Do you say, maybe this is not as important as we thought it would be. Let's reduce the value of it. Or do you ever play around with the scoring, or is it the scoring is the scoring?
The scoring is they tweak it. Every few years they tweak it up a little bit. But pretty much, if they're scoring below a 30. Then we're really not dealing with them as much.
Right.
They'll get the emails, they'll get a token, but we're not going to do the moves with them.
That makes a lot of sense, right? If they don't score high on the linkage, the connection to the school, then it's going to be a lot of work for very little payoff.
Right.
So better to focus on people who score higher, because those are in essence, those people who are lower hanging fruit, like the ones you can actually do something within a shorter period of time.
Right, and you really want to focus, that's the main thing of the development scoring sheet and the moves management, is focusing on quality as opposed to quantity. And spending your time.
Points, how you're engaging with somebody.
Exactly.
So not all engagement is created equal.
Exactly.
So like going to an Orioles game might be a certain value, but bringing them into the school and seeing the kids, at a Chumash play might score higher than the Orioles game.
Exactly. Certain those who have something to offer, if they want to come and talk about science, or they want to talk about STEM classes, they want to talk about robotics.
You're saying the donor themselves might have something to offer.
Right, if they want to talk about, one donor who happens to be a tremendous Talmid about pushing and writing notes and becoming a Halper Sefer. Someone who's Messiah Shas, 2 or 3 times to come in and talk to the high school boys. There's so much that each person could, to be able to get a donor to come in and speak and be mechaber him is just tremendous. But it's really listening to them and understanding, what makes them tick, and then based on that, you want to create really a game plan.
Yeah.
To focus in on what makes them tick, and the more you listen to them, I have a donor who's 98 years old.
Okay.
His name is Peter. He lives in Boynton Beach, Florida, and I call him every month, and one time a year, I ask him for a donation. But every other time I talk to him, we just talked about what's going on, how's his life, what'd you do today, tell me something new. We get together. I try to go down to Florida, twice a year at least to see my donors. So my last visit with him was a number of months ago, and I come into the house and I got nervous because he was sitting at the table with his 3 children who are much older than me. They were in the late 60s, early 70s. His children were all retired,
right,
and his attorney.
Oh boy.
I'm
like,
oh boy,
a Basin over here.
This is either a Basin or a setup, know?
Yeah, exactly.
And Peter says, I said, Peter, is everything
okay? So
okay?
You thought you were coming in just to meet with Peter?
Just to meet with Peter.
You walk in there, and it's the children and the lawyer.
Children and the lawyer.
All right, this could be either really good or really
right.
bad.
I was really nervous. I'm like, Peter, is everything okay? He said, Rabbi, sit down. Everything is fine.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell my children something, and I wanted you to be here in attendance.
Okay.
I said, okay, fine. He says, Rabbi, what type of golf clubs do I use? I said, tailor-made. He said, what are my irons made of? I said, well, they're graphite, and they have this and this type of shaft, and this and this type of club head. He said, what are my drivers, my woods made out of? I said, this is the type you use. This is the speed, the type of club head you use, and this is the type of spin, this is the type of torque. He goes, okay. He says, what's my favorite drink? I said, you like tequila? He says, when I won $1 million in Las Vegas a few years ago, was it at blackjack table or was it on the roulette table? I said, neither. It was on a slot machine. And he continued, question after question after question. And it was like 10 or 15 questions. And his children were like, Dad, we don't even know these answers.
Yeah, the kids don't even know this.
And he said, I just want you to know that Rabbi Lefkowitz calls me every single month. One time of the year he calls, because that's his job. He needs to ask for money. But every other time he asks me, how's this doing? How's that doing? What kind of bottle did you buy recently? Where did you go out to eat? What type of restaurant are you at? Did you get a new tennis racket? Did you get new golf clubs? He knows everything about me. He says, there's a rabbi, I'm not going to mention the rabbi's name,
of course,
and he is scheduled to, give my vanilla, a tailor-made eulogy when I pass. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know the first thing about me. So I want to say in front of my lawyer that when I pass, I would like you to fly in Rabbi Lefkowitz and his wife. He should be the one to eulogize me, because he knows everything about me, things that you, my own children, don't even know about me, because he calls me every single month because he cares.
I got goosebumps.
So that's my buddy Peter. He's the oldest living TA alumnus that I know. He's 98. He's turning 99.
He went to TA.
Soon went to TA, and only because first of all, I guess I do care because I like him. I care.
Yeah.
But I call him so much that we don't talk about money once a year. But the other times we're just talking about his life and what's he up to and what kind of new suit he got and his new clubs and whatever else interests him.
Yeah, I think that people don't realize that when you're a fundraiser, yes, you're the motivation why you're reaching out to people for the first time is because you need to raise money. Yeah. But what happens is if you're doing it right, like in this story with Peter, what happens is it's like, no, I call him every month because I care, right? Because the relationship is a two-way street. If it's a real relationship, it's not just you are reaching out to him because ultimately you're asking for money and you're hoping that he develops a relationship with you. You're developing a relationship with him just as much. So the fact that you know all this about him is a testament to the fact that you actually care about Peter.
Yes.
Right? That was an evolution. On day one, you didn't care about Peter. You just cared about the fact that Peter might be able to support TA. But now that relationship has evolved, and now it's something it's someone you genuinely care about, and you would feel privileged to eulogize him, do his hesped when he should live and be well to 120.
Right.
But you are going to be someone that would not surprise me if you get choked up while you're talking about him, in a eulogy, because you're someone who actually cares. So I think that's an important thing, to take stock and say, are these people that I'm developing a relationship with, am I developing a real relationship where they're my friend, right? And if you go to a solicitation and you feel inside like, this really feels kind of yucky because I come to them once a year, and then that's
just stale.
Yeah, that should
Here
tell you.
It is. It's the annual once-a-year call from Rabbi Lefkowitz. I know why he's calling.
Yep.
He wants money.
Yep.
He doesn't know much about me. He doesn't know my inner being, my kishkas.
Yep.
And then eventually, like any relationship, it's one and done, and it becomes stale. You listening to, I have another donor that loves Scotch, and we started off about 8 years ago.
I'm in the wrong. I was obviously not a good fundraiser because I never got to go to the baseball games and drink Scotch and play. But you,
that's where it is.
Clearly,
this
I
is
did
2025.
it wrong. There's an expression that I love that I heard someone once told me, that fundraisers get to live like a rich person without having the money themselves. Right? I think it's a pretty. You get to fly to Aspen. You get to go down to Florida. You get to go to all the fancy restaurants.
Right.
Usually, it's on the dime of the donor you're meeting with. So,
yes.
But yes,
you're lucky.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting off. You were talking about another donor. Yeah.
We had spoken about, and I said, there's a really good bottle of 10-year-old Scotch. Why don't we connect it to your gift and make it a $10,000 gift? And he said, fine, let's do it. So I bought him a bottle of 10-year-old Macallan.
Sure.
Next year I said, let's do it to 11. So now we're 8 years later, and he just made an $18,000 pledge.
So you have an 18-year-old bottle of Scotch?
I got to find an 18-year-old bottle somewhere of some good Scotch.
Yeah, your price point's about to go way up. By the way,
so we go up $1,000 every year. No, and it's become a thing.
Yeah.
With this specific donor that we're not talking about a multi-million who's going to go do $1 million, but it's become our thing.
Yeah.
And every year we go up 1,000. Every year I get him a 16, a 17. This year will be an 18. So you need to see what the donor's like,
right?
And you kind of translate that into
connect with them on their level.
Right. And but you also have to be respectful of them. Like when you're golfing, I had a number of years ago an old man who was very, very intense. I actually had a Rolls-Royce golf cart. And
pardon me.
It was a Rolls-Royce golf cart. And on the first hole, I got a birdie. Never do that. Never beat your donor.
Yeah. That's probably
he was really, really intense. And I made up, not to beat him on any of the other holes. I think that was my only birdie of the day. But again, you if they like golf, you do golf. If they like things on the parsha, talk about the parsha. You talk about halacha, they like halacha. And you wanna tailor-made your relationship with them, because again, the more you know about them, that's the motto of the Boy Scouts. Always be prepared.
Always be prepared.
So
yes.
the more you prepare before each, engagement, the better off you are. And again, it's also listening, letting them talk, letting them, what's working in their lives going well, challenges they're having, and just, being a shoulder to lean on. Because,
being a friend.
Right, being a friend. And sometimes you don't even have to ask. They know what your job is. They know I am there.
There's no mystery about why you're there. There's no question about that. And they're going to rather, if there's 5 or 10 people who are going to come to them for money, they're going to give to the person the most, whoever has the biggest relationship. That's it. Right. They're not going to look at which organization leverages the dollar best. They're not making an intellectual decision. It's an emotional one. They're going to say, which organization do I feel connection to emotionally? Which person who's asking me for money am I going to connect to on an emotional level? That's really what's going to come down to.
Right.
So Rabbi Yanky Lefkowitz, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You should have lots of hatzlacha. You should continue doing great work.
Amen. Thank you for having me on, Yoni.
Yeah, maybe we'll go to an Orioles game or share some scotch together.
Most definitely. My treat. It's on me.
All right, beautiful. Thank you.